Awaken the warrior in you with Scotty, the new AR-15 rifle by Zanna Enterprises LLC. I am Scotty, Norse goddess of winter, hunting, and just revenge. I am Scotty. I am Scotty. I am Scotty. I am chambered in 223 Wild and can shoot 556 NATO and 223 Remington. My trigger is crisp and fast. An average of 4 pounds out of the box. Call me a fast girl. I can shoot over 5 rounds in 1 second. But I'm focused too. With only iron sights and no bench, I can hit 1 square inch at 25 yards. I am Scotty. I am Scotty. I am Scotty. I bow down to no one. I am independent. I am fierce. I am a warrior. My Viking spirit has been reborn in a fabulous new body, all made in the USA. I am Scotty. I am Scotty. I am Scotty. I can withstand a loaded Humvee running over me and still look pretty. I am Scotty. Find me at www.ar15shop.us. I am Scotty. 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 Find me at www.ar15shop.us. I am Scotty.
Here we go, guys and girls. You're listening to Love, Guns and Freedom. We'll look at Zanna on K-Talks 1340 AM and also 104.1 FM. This is the second hour, the hour about guns. 4 years on the air. Today is my anniversary. I cannot believe it. If I had to say one reason, probably the most important reason why really I chose to stay here and doing every week what I'm trying to do, honestly, it's for selfish reasons. And I tell you right now, I had the opportunity to learn so much from my guests. Things that normally, topics and information that normally I don't know where I could have found it. So I tell you, this is for me a great opportunity. Don't think I'm here to try to preach in you, because I'm not a preacher. I'm terrible, by the way. You know that. I'm just a regular guy. But more important, when it comes down to topics like the Second Amendment, our rights, and, information, the laws. Know your rights. Otherwise, you have no rights. So, more important, you must know also our laws, especially when you are in your state. Know your state laws. You know the federal laws, because when it comes down to the Second Amendment, it's already something that, supposed to be pretty simple. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. But you know how many times they try to infringe on your face. So you better know every time we have a law that especially is a good law to try to protect our rights. And this is really what happened, what's happening in Arizona. We had very great people, not just today, but it's been like a struggle for years. They've been fighting at the Capitol, lobbying to try to organize us, the voters, in getting involved, not just going to the range and blasting rounds. Getting involved with our rights, start with our, elected politicians to keep them, some sort of accountable. So that's very important. That's why one of the first things I did when I came to Arizona, I joined an organization that I think for me it is the best, the Arizona Citizen Defense League. And just a few years ago, I became a lifetime member. And I tell you, this is a real group of real people. Those are not just some people that they have, the suit to go there and they become CEO of these sort of humongous organizations. These people, they really do as a act of love, because they take their time, they don't get paid, and they use all the resources they can to get involved at the Capitol in Phoenix and also at local level to defend our rights and always to protect our rights from attacks coming from other people, other states, like, Bloomberg and other situations that we know, California next door. So the point is, it's a great organization. Now, there is a gentleman who's been a Facebook friend of mine for a while. I like him a lot because he's very educated, especially when it comes down to the Second Amendment, our rights in our state laws. And I like it because, I try to always to be accurate as possible, but I'm just a regular guy, even, of course, I'm trying to learn. and also I do different things now, like I give, Arizona AZCDL permit classes, stuff like that. But, there is always something new to learn. And I really like this guy because it's so much, it's a gold mine of information. As I said, his name is John Corey Wentling, and also is one of the founders of the Arizona Citizen Defense League. Let me bring it on the air. Hey, John, are you there?
I'm here, Luca. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And by the way, John, please introduce yourself a little bit. We never had a chance to talk really on the phone. Who are you? Where are you from? And when did you come to Arizona? Because
my name's John Wentling. I'm one of the original founding members of the Arizona Citizens Defense League.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in Arizona a little over 35 years now, originally from Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, I can hear from your accent. As I said, still you have a good British accent like mine.
Well, when I put it on, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we are British.
Got to kind of turn it off a little bit, depending on what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Wow. If I can ask, because I'm always fascinated. The States for me, especially when I came to America. Italy is big, but not as big, of course. And when the idea of states, with their own laws, you can be tired of a state and you go to another state. That's what I really like also of America. You can have a different environment. I mean, as a young man, you told me that, I don't know exactly how old you are, but, you were a young man when you came to Arizona. Am I right? How old you were?
Well, I was younger. I've been here longer than I was in New York.
Okay.
60 years old now.
Okay.
I came here when I was 24.
So you're a young man. I mean, it's a big, especially then, I'm sure, leaving behind all your friends, your neighbors. I mean, what was the motivation to bring you to Arizona from a big city like New York?
Well, as my colleague and I, my buddy Dave, and I like to joke, we're political refugees.
Yeah.
We escaped an oppressive state and local government, that denied you your rights. I mean, you have the right to breastfeed on the subway in public, but you don't have a right to defend yourself. It's just nonsense. You know what I mean?
Wow, interesting. Because, I thought sometimes just me live in Italy for the same reason, that's pretty much the idea, I didn't leave Italy because the weather or because I didn't like the food or things like that. I left Italy because I have no rights. And I understand, when I left California 10 years ago, it was almost, let's say, a deja vu coming back to the same story. So I understand exactly what you mean when you left New York. Now,
yeah, California is probably far more restrictive than even Italy is.
Oh, don't even get me wrong. I mean, California now it's a new level. But remember something, Italy, the sad thing is this. In America, every state, they let their politicians go crazy. But on paper, our founding fathers gave us that document that it doesn't give us rights, but reminds us that we have rights. So the point is different because from here, I don't care which state, every United States state, of this union, they have it in our birthright as Americans that you have right. In Europe, like Italy, for example, you never had that. We went back from the time of the slaves, the time of the Romans, the empire, and then the church, the pope, and the kings and lords and the servants. The point, the Second Amendment was never engraved on stone or never even enunciated. There was no right. So the point here, we have a difference. Even the worst state like New York or California, it's up to the people to take it back. In Europe, they cannot take it back because they never had it. All they need is a revolution to start it for the first time.
That's very true. But a lot of cultural differences. But one of the biggest differences I like to point out to people when they talk about other countries don't have such freedom like we have, and restrictions are only common sense because Japan has them, or Italy has them, or France has them. And I have to remind them, but there's one thing that we have that nobody else has, and that's our Bill of Rights and Constitution.
Yes.
The Constitution is a restraint on government, and the Bill of Rights guarantees certain rights. It doesn't give them to you.
Exactly.
It guarantees them to you.
Exactly. That's very important. Sometimes I talk to, people that they're even, more American than I am in the way that they were born here. And I say, wait a minute, guys. The Bill of Rights doesn't give you right. It just reminds the government, reminds us that we have this right, period. That's the bottom line.
Our rights predate the government.
Exactly.
I mean, they came from God.
Exactly.
And I've actually, there's some on the left, many on the left, that don't believe that, that the government actually gives you the rights. They're what we call progressive secularists.
Yeah.
So it's almost as though, they don't want...
Listen, I have friends that they are, let's say, secularists, or they don't believe in God, or maybe they have different gods belief, and they still believe that as human beings, as a free human beings, they have their right to defend their life and their liberty, period. And that's
no question.
That's the
bottom line. That's the most fundamental thing. But, it goes a little beyond that, too, because it's also the right to defend others. It's also the right to defend your state or your country.
Yes.
And that's what, militia means. It's the right to defend. Under Arizona Constitution, defense of the state as well as yourself. And the state is composed of people. So it means you have the right to defend other people.
Yes. And by the way,
not just the institution.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
People.
John, correct me if I'm wrong. One thing that I read in the Arizona Constitution a few times, that everybody between the age 18 and 45, if I well remember, is automatically... 17, excuse me, you're right. Is automatically part of the Arizona militia. Am I right?
Yeah, technically, that would be true. There's some conflict in the Constitution itself. That's actually what the composition of the militia would be, what would be considered the unorganized militia as compared to the organized militia, which would be the National Guard.
Yes.
Which, since 1913, I believe, I can't think of the name of the congressman who the law is named after, but basically federalized the National Guard, so you can't really say they're the state organized militia anymore because the federal government can take them over.
Yeah.
So we're actually we're the militia.
Exactly.
Each and every one of us. And,
exactly.
With other things, there's no age limit. It's those that are capable, those that are willing.
Exactly. You said the right word, willing and capable, because after all, nobody's going to tell me if I am 90 and if I still have the love and the strength in my blood, if I want to defend this country. Nobody's going to say, wait a second, you got just, 1 year too old, or maybe you are too old. It's the way...
Exactly.
Also I was...
Well, yeah, and that would also conflict with, anti-discrimination, things of that nature. So,
yes.
You got to throw it back in their face. They don't want the discrimination. Well, you can't discriminate the members of the militia,
Exactly.
It says 45, but that's discriminatory.
I agree. And by the way...
By their own, way of thinking.
Exactly. One thing I want to remind, everybody out there that maybe they've been brainwashed by the media and by the government propaganda. Every time you use the word militia, they think, oh my gosh, this person is going to have children for breakfast. It's an evil person, must be a right-wing neo-Nazi. Wait a second. Militia, if it wasn't for the militia, right now we will be still under the Commonwealth and most important, under the British Crown. This is being our blood of our militiamen, our regular people, men and women too in some ways. They fought along with the militia. And that was our strength, because it was the idea of the citizen soldier, not the professional mercenary. We love our country and we do our life. We work, during the day, whatever trade you have, but then you have the commitment, not paid commitment, at least beside the basic things they may be able sometimes to give you extra, but most of it, you need to take care of yourself. You need to be ready. And that's what exactly how this country was created, with the militia. And I feel so sorry when I see all these, media, and then of course the people following up like parrots. You mentioned the word militia, they look at you like they're gonna call the FBI on you immediately. Instead,
well, that's because of the negative connotations that they've been printing in the paper and talking about forever. That's part of the process, is to demonize things.
Exactly.
In Russia, for instance, what the police are referred to as?
Tell me.
Militia.
Oh gosh, yeah. Interesting.
So the Moscow Police Department are often referred to as Militia.
Militia. Okay, interesting. I didn't know that.
You're Italian. What's militia mean?
La milizia, la milizia,
You know
la
what I
milizia.
mean?
No, it's true. It's true. It is very true. By the way, the
And the
milizia.
carabinieri. You know,
Oh,
I
well,
mean,
in
it
Italy.
all goes down to this.
Well, Carabinieri is different. If I really would like to get the militia, probably in Italy I would get the police because technically, in Italy they have. I don't have anymore, thank God. They have two different type of branches. Okay, one
Yeah,
is
that's
called.
true. The carabinieri is federal.
Yeah, exactly. Not more than federal. It's militarized. They
Yeah,
have
military.
yeah,
a branch of the military.
and
yeah.
the police, it's a technical civilian, okay? But they are both federal. That's another thing, for example, people need to understand when they come down to the idea of sovereignty, not just a state level, but also a community level, city level, county level. Because, if you have like a corrupted organism, then they all three is going to be rotten. Instead, when you have, for example, each city is own police force or independent sovereign in some ways, you have less chances to have a control of corruption. That's the idea. So in Italy, unfortunately, you have a centralized police force, Polizia di Stato, and then you have, of course, the Carabinieri. Same story. And don't get me wrong, I have a lot of friends. We did a military academy together, and today they are in position of colonels or majors in different branches between the Carabinieri or even special forces group. But the point is, unfortunately, that's the way the system is set up. There are good people, but also there are people, unfortunately, they use this position of power, and that becomes part of a lifestyle anywhere, no matter where.
Well, that's anywhere you go. It's anywhere in the world. It
exactly,
happens, and
exactly.
Power corrupts.
Exactly.
But absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yeah. So in many countries where you have such absolute power in the hands of so few, they repress people.
Very true. Listen.
In England, you take England, for example. In England, it is effectively illegal to defend yourself.
Yeah.
If you were walking down the street in London with a screwdriver in your hand or in your pocket, innocently, you're going to go fix something. You'd stop and question you.
Oh, yeah.
Whether you're going to use that screwdriver to defend yourself or assault somebody.
Yeah, but no. Even if you're in your home, they say think Europe. Not just England, but also Italy. I can tell you, forget about going out with a screwdriver in your pocket. You're in your home, your castle. That's something coming back to the common law. Okay, even for the time of kings and lords, still there was this common law that the man in his own home is like living in his own castle. At least he's supposed to have the right to defend himself. Guess
Absolutely.
what? In Europe now, not even that anymore. I mean, there are cases of home invasions.
Well, that's also England.
Yeah.
There was a story of a farmer. He was, he's out. He's 100 miles from civilization. The closest police are, 50 miles away, and he was burglarized multiple times. Well, one time he got burglarized, and he took out his shotgun, and he shot one of the burglars. He's all by himself, or him and his wife, and, they break in his house, and, he's there. You have to assume that had he tried to stop them from burglarizing, they might have hurt him. So he shot one of them, and he was tried and convicted.
Wow. This is
and, that's where, and England has just tumbled from there. So it's effectively illegal to defend yourself in England.
Exactly. This is the truth. And that's why I really believe in Arizona, we need to always keep the guard high and never take it for granted. Because I know many people think, we live in Arizona, we're okay here. No, nothing probably most far from the truth, because yes, we are the best state right now, in my opinion, according also guns and ammo, I guess, for 3 years in a row. I don't know last year what happened, but with the number one state when it comes down to gun rights. But people need to understand this doesn't happen just because we are in Arizona. This happens because people like you and other people, that we keep fighting at political level to keep preserve this right, because this state is under attack.
That's absolutely true. It's taken a tremendous amount of work to make our laws better and more pro citizen. And that's part. It's not just keeping politicians accountable. It's also advising them and educating them. Mm-hmm. Because even some of the most stalwart conservatives, they sometimes misunderstand how things are or should be, or a proper reading of how things work.
Yeah.
But you have to take precautions and people say, well, with rights come responsibilities. That's absolutely correct. You can't just walk down the street with a gun and start shooting people.
Yeah.
And that would be the best analogy to, one of the worst analogies is yelling fire in a crowded theater.
Yes.
But by restricting gun rights, they're talking basically the equivocation would be going into a theater and having a ball gag stuck in your mouth, so you would be prohibited.
Yeah, that's true.
From yelling fire, even if there was a fire.
Exactly.
So gun laws disarm you. And when there is a threat, you can't do anything about it.
And also, I do not believe in this collective sense of guilt, because this is something that, they use only when it comes down to guns. I mean, how many people died last night of drunken driving, or they kill other innocent people? I'm sure a lot, and I'm sorry about it. But it wasn't my fault. It wasn't your fault. The point is, if somebody commits a crime using a tool that could be a hammer, or could be a gun, or could be a car, we should not be penalized. And I don't feel 1 inch of guilt. That's the bottom line. I didn't do it.
That's absolutely true. Well,
Okay.
More people are killed with hands and feet than are killed with guns.
Exactly. Now, more
people are beaten to death.
What we are facing here right now, I'm really concerned in the next few months, because people think we have Trump at the helm, President Trump, and we should be fine. Don't worry about whatever they try to come through, with the new pieces of legislation. But I believe, unfortunately, this is very far from truth, because people are getting relaxed and they think we are safe. Instead, we are not, in my opinion. I mean, after this Las Vegas shooting, regardless exactly how it went down, I have my opinion, but at this point, that's not the focus, unless you want to tell me something about that you think about it. But the point is, they started with this piece of legislation about banning this bump fire stock that I said in my last show. I don't care about the bonfire, but it is my right if I want it or not. This is not about the bonfire. It's about how they start to infringe on our rights. That next time could be the magazine, because the bill states...
It's an incremental thing,
Exactly.
Absolutely. Have to be vigilant against incrementalism. They've for years they've taken an inch, which turned out to be miles.
Yeah.
And we gave it to them because these were reasonable. And there's nothing reasonable about gun control, nothing at all, because the ultimate goal, and they've admitted it many times, that their ultimate goal is registration, even confiscation.
Exactly.
They want civilian disarmament. They only want the police and military to have guns. And we've seen how that's turned out around the world.
Exactly.
History.
And I would like to make a case about the people, even the conservative or people normally they are gun owners, who believe, after all this bump fire, I don't need it. It's really something that we don't need. It is not even good for self-defense. And I understand I wouldn't use it for self-defense. But the point is, and I said last time, at least a couple weeks ago, first of all, when you open the door to allow a government without even legislation, that would be bad enough, but through a ruling. Because after all, the ATF, all they need to do is write a letter. Like, these bureaucrats, they can tell you what is good today, what is not good tomorrow. That's very scary, because that's the way they're trying to push it, especially the NRA now. They don't want to put it on vote. They want to go through the ATF. But my point is, according to this type of language that they are using, anything that could somehow make a rifle faster, they could somehow ban it. Because if they go along with the bump fire, the language says, correct me if I'm wrong, everything that could make the rifle firing faster. I mean, a 30 rounds magazine, I'm sure makes your rifle, especially if you got a good trigger control, shooting faster than if you have a black powder musket. So if they can go along with...
yes, no question. That's a good analogy, Luca. Very good analogy. Difference between a modern rifle and a musket.
Yeah. I mean...
That's absolutely a great analogy.
The language is scary, because everything makes my rifle faster. I mean, it could be the next time, a better trigger, a more polished trigger. I mean, if I polish my trigger to 4 pounds, it's better than 8 pounds. So, yeah, I can shoot faster.
Or even a 1 pound. I mean,
exactly.
But bump fire stocks, we both know, are very, they reduce the accuracy.
Yeah.
They're very inaccurate. I mean, people have shown that you can do the same, basically have the same effect with a rubber band.
Exactly. And by the way, another thing scares the hell out of me, the idea that they want to push that not only they want to restrict the sales, but they also want to restrict the ownership after you already bought it. Because that's, if they really think they can go along with that, that's called a robbery. You cannot just deprive me of something that I paid, and you want to confiscate it from me, especially when you're doing that, and when the time of the sales happened, it was legal. I mean, that's exactly against the principles of every free country and every type of things that we're supposed to have in our due process, in our Bill of Rights. Don't you think that's...
Well, no question about it.
Yeah.
No question about it. That's, those kind of laws are just totally unconstitutional.
Yeah.
And that's what California did.
Yeah.
People had to turn in their so-called large capacity magazines, and they're not. Those are standard magazines. A 20-round magazine comes with an AR-15.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what they said?
So limited it to 10, that's an artificial limit.
Yeah.
And, somebody that's adept at it or practices a little bit can swap out magazines in a split second.
Yeah. And the thing
so
is,
it doesn't make a difference.
Exactly.
I mean, you look at the Clinton assault weapon ban over 10 years. It did absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. There was zero effect.
One thing it did, it created like a black market for things, and the price of a 30 rounds beat up magazine, if you could buy used, was like $100. If you wanted to risk the law, okay? I mean,
well, don't forget, heroin's illegal too.
Yeah, exactly.
Cocaine's illegal too.
Yeah. No, that's very true.
Marijuana's illegal too.
It's true. It is true. Listen,
but there doesn't seem to be any shortage of any of them anywhere. In fact, over the last 30 years, heroin's gotten better quality, and more. There's more of it. It's cheaper, so there's more of it, and the quality's much higher than it was 30 years ago. So they're doing a great job banning heroin.
Yeah.
Well, it's when they outlaw a gun, all they do is create outlaws.
Yeah, and create a black market with going to be also more expensive. I mean, the price is going to go up. Whatever you have is going to be much more expensive on the black market. That's how the mafia also made their money during the prohibition, everything else. Talking about Arizona, because as I said, every year, guys, I read your newsletters, and there is so much you're doing. Sometimes I would like to speak more and more about the accomplishment and also about what you're trying to save, defend us from the next round of attack. If you can say that the biggest or the most important bills that this year the state of Arizona passed with your guides, or at least with your try to educate our politicians in Phoenix. Anything you want to mention, something that we were able to accomplish?
Over the last 12 or 13 years, one of the most noteworthy was constitutional carry. You didn't need a permit to carry concealed. That had, that was kind of a dual purpose, because it was a very subjective law. Mm-hmm. Some people might get cited or arrested, other people may not.
Yeah.
Just depending on where they live or who they are. So it leveled the playing field, made things more fair.
Exactly.
That would be one of the ones, but one of the more better ones actually was a presumption of innocence. At one time, you were presumed guilty when you acted in self-defense.
Wow. You
had to prove that you were innocent. And that is totally contrary to everything this country stands for.
Yeah.
They have to prove your guilt. Yes. You don't have to prove your innocence.
Yeah.
They have to prove your guilt by a preponderance of evidence beyond a reasonable doubt.
Exactly. I mean, it applies to the other things they're supposed to have in our Bill of Rights. I mean, any other crime, but why does not apply when we have a gun for self-defense? That's really, it was strange.
People overlook that, but that was probably one of the more significant things we've done over the years.
Yeah.
Preemption, we're local communities. I mean, at one time, different cities, different towns had different rules. We can't have that. We have a constitution that applies to the entire state.
Yeah. And that's very important because, preemptive state laws is one of the most probably, I think, powerful things we have in the state of Arizona, differently from Nevada, for example. You go to, let's say you have a open carry in one county, and the next county, they look at you with a gun and they beat you up. I mean, they arrest you, different type of...
absolutely.
It is very important. It's very important. Listen, talking about Arizona still, because the last time we interacted, I'm so glad that you gave me some, let's say, accuracy in my statement. The point is, normally when I go, for example, to Walmart or some shops out there, I don't like to leave my rifle in my truck. People say, what? You carry a rifle with you? Yes, I carry my rifle with me, and that's my business. First of all, I carry my rifle, period, because my gun is just my side firearm. But regardless, I don't want to leave my rifle in the truck. So what do? I try to be always, of course, polite and have some etiquette, okay? I don't want to freak people out. So like I would carry my gun in my holster, and normally I carry my gun concealed, of course, just because I like it for tactical advantage. My rifle, I cannot conceal it, so I have a nice cupboard, and I put it, of course, pointed in a safe direction, and normally I put it in my cart, a shopping cart, facing the barrel down. So nobody really can see that, oh my gosh, you're going to do a robbery, because normally I carry my cart full of merchandise, and of course I got my rifle there. And the average person here in Arizona, especially Northwest Arizona, honestly, they smile at me. They couldn't care less, okay? But once in a while, we got some tourists or people maybe coming from California or some other places, I don't know. So it happened to me like a few weeks ago when I posted my little photo out there, that while I was shopping at Walmart for toilet paper and some ammunition at the sports and goods department, I was approached by this lady who was also the assistant manager. And I was surrounded by about probably 3 or 4 other Walmart employees. And the lady said, what is that? And I say, what do you mean, what is that? Looking at the cart, the rifle? Yes, my rifle. And I understood there was some sort of a problem in her mind. And she said, no, you cannot carry this. And I say, excuse me, ma'am, if you tell me that you don't want me on your property here with my gun, that's fine, but you should post a sign out there, because you didn't post any sign. So I'm just here exercising my basic right. More important, I'm shopping here, don't you see? But what is your point? I said. Why are you saying that to me? Since you have no signs, we are allowed to have guns, right? Yes, we are allowed to have guns, but she said, oh, guns, no rifles. And a little precision, ma'am, nowhere specify that we have gun, shotgun, or a rifle. The point is any gun that is legally, let's say, carried. I wasn't carrying my hand, brandishing it or pointing at people. It's fine. So that's the point. And more important, I said, why are you picking on me? And she said, oh, we have a customer that he was feeling very nervous and was afraid. And I said, you know what? I'm sorry for your customer, but at that point, he needs some help. And tell him to find some help. But I asked her,
I know. I remember you posting that.
And one thing I was saying, thank God there was this assistant of the assistant manager that pretty much said, I said, listen, I want to know, you want me to leave? I will leave right now, but I want to be on record. You're picking on me because you have no right to do that, since you didn't post any sign, and you just discriminated me because you don't like my rifle. That's the bottom line. Because she said the guns are fine, handguns. So anyway, and the guy said, no, he's right. Talking about me. So my point was, I would like to talk a little bit with you, because you're very educated, I like that, and accurate, about the laws that we have in our state when it comes down to private property, number one, and number two, also when it comes down to trespassing on private property, and also when it comes down to establishment who serves alcohol, because that's something new that we had just recently. That's
about 5 years old now.
Yeah, recently, compared to other things. But the point is, we can, law-abiding people who have a CCW of Arizona, we can also carry concealed, if we do not drink or consume alcohol in establishment who serve alcohol.
Right.
Can you give me a little bit of, education?
Well, as long as it's not posted.
Exactly.
That's the law. If it's posted, then you're not allowed to carry a concealed weapon in there, and it has to be posted properly. It can't be hidden behind the jukebox. It can't be down the hallway next to the bathroom. It has to be where people can see it. I believe the law actually calls for it to be within 20 feet of the liquor license, which has to be posted conspicuously where people can see it. And there's basic laws that go back, decades, that say that signs like any sign has to be conspicuous, has to be legible. If it's written in crayon, scribbled by a 3-year-old, it may not be legitimate. You know what I mean? Because if people can't read it, how can you comply with it?
So let's start from the basic. This is just also following the logic, supposedly. Every private business, it's their business to decide how they want to make money or lose money. And the point, if they ask you to leave, you should leave. Okay, and more important.
Oh yeah, you have to leave if if they're posted,
Exactly.
no weapons or whatever, then
We comply.
if you enter anyway,
Yes.
they still have to tell you to leave. They
Yes.
can't just call the police on you. They still need to tell you to leave. If you refuse to leave, you would be committing criminal trespass.
Exactly.
And you could be arrested for that.
And when you have a criminal trespassing with a firearm, it's a little different than when you have it just without firearm. Am I right or wrong? I mean, it becomes...
Could be, yes.
Could be more. Also, the way they approach
elevated,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. So very important, as a personal.
Well, you're committing a crime while carrying a firearm, and that could cause you additional trouble.
Yes, everything that even just let's say a behavior that could be disorderly conduct with a firearm can become a new level. That's the very important.
Well. For example, I'll give you a very simple example that a lot of people may understand, okay? If somebody's in their car and they have a firearm and, I don't know, they have a marijuana cigarette in their ashtray. The marijuana cigarette is a Class 6 felony, unless it's medical marijuana and you have a medical marijuana card. But if it's just, without any of that, it's just a marijuana cigarette in the ashtray and you're carrying a firearm, well, it went from a Class 6 felony to a Class 4 felony.
Wow. Yep. Yes.
Okay, which can put you in jail for quite a few years.
Yeah.
So there's a sentence enhancement for committing a crime in possession of a firearm.
Yeah, and also exactly the point is always the logic is this one: is their property. It's a private business. They decide whatever they want to do there. My point is though one other one: when you have, for example, a situation like Walmart, okay. Regardless that they are right or wrong, my approach is always to be polite and put things on records, of course, never be confrontational, even when I know I'm right. And more important at that point, I right to leave, even when I know that it's my right to stay, because they didn't post any sign there. That's why I said, you want me to leave? I will leave. But I want to be sure.
Exactly, you did exactly the right thing.
Every witness must know that next week you will hear from my attorney. That's the bottom line. They need to understand the concept because there are going to be repercussions. They cannot just decide to make their own laws. Like, for example, you remember what happened in Mojave County years ago, and it was for your help, guys, that really help us out to change the law. In Mojave County,
exactly, yeah.
7 years ago, I want to be sure that everybody knows that, because this was something was happening, creating the opportunity to gun control, and more important for gun registration, in the state of Arizona. The Mojave County business, it's a business. Mojave County government, they tried to create gun registration. Every time somebody was coming to the county building, there were X-rays machine, and of course locking their guns according to state laws in their safe area, so we could not have access to our facility with guns. But they made a one notch up, or low, whatever you want to think. They decided to
creating a logbook, right?
Yeah, a logbook, and all computerized, and
right.
That was amazing. We did a video here with my friends. We sent it down to you, and
I still have it.
Wow, wow! In 30 days, I think 45 days. Even the NRA, they normally, I'm not really a fan, and we'll go through that later. They said that was the Mojave County bill, pretty much, with your help and support, and we had some good legislators down in Phoenix. I remember for sure we had Senator Ron Gould, and also at this point I think it was also Senator Russell Pierce at the time. In 45 days, amazing. Our governor signed it, and that was illegal.
Oh yeah, well,
it's amazing.
Well, there was actually a package of bills. There were several bills, and even last year there was another bill yet again to prohibit registration.
Yeah.
So, it was on, but that shut it down. And look at it today. You're allowed to carry into the county building.
Yes, and of course we have new politicians, elected county supervisor that somehow came after this process of educating the people. So it's all up to us, as I said.
That like a couple of years ago that they removed the restrictions and took down the signs, wasn't it?
Yeah, 3 years ago. 3 years ago, when they have the new batch of elected, and I'm so. As I said, it's our duty to keep this struggle going, to keep educating people, to also stand up. That's the way we make things better. We can't just go back watching TV, say, everything's gonna be fine next year. It's not gonna happen. Now,
well, you got to think too. Under our state constitution, where you have the right to bear arms in defense of yourself or the state, how can you defend other people if they're going to disarm you at the library?
Exactly.
How are you going to defend other people if they're going to disarm you at the whatever public building there is? just arbitrarily. There's no security there or anything. They just have a sign.
Exactly.
A sign doesn't protect anybody.
Exactly.
It's not going to stop a bad guy.
And that's why I hate the post office, I tell you, because the sad thing, not
Well,
only
that's an entirely different thing. They're looking
I
at
understand.
federal.
I understand. That's why I hate it, because I really, you don't want to go there. Oh, let's speak exactly about that, because when you say before we go to a private business, if there is a sign, technically we still can go there even if we shouldn't. But then when the moment they tell us to leave, we must leave. That's the bottom line. But if we go on, let's say, a place like a federal place, like this case, the post office, and you get caught with a gun, and they tell you must leave, you technically already broke a law there. What do you think?
Well, that could be a problem, but there is a technicality in the law, actually. And I was told that it revised it. I'm not entirely up to date on that, but there was a technicality, so to speak. And that technicality, there's a couple of them. You have post offices that are in general stores in some of the outlying areas that are, where hunters go, things like that. So there were exceptions when hunting or during hunting season in the federal law, and there was also an exception for, when you're just protecting yourself, I guess you can say. So there are a couple of exceptions in that law, but naturally they wouldn't see it that way. Yeah. So, carrying in a post office and getting caught carrying in a post office, if it's posted, many are not.
Yeah.
Many are not.
Yeah, I would. The point is, I wouldn't suggest, and it's sad because at the same time, as I said, if somebody who really is crazy person, they don't even put any type of armed security. So all they do, they disarm law-abiding people. So we're gonna be all disarmed, and at the same time, they don't give you any security. In my opinion, I think they should be liable if something bad happens. They should be really sued in a bad way. But the problem that we always pay us as the taxpayers. That's the problem. Instead, these bureaucrats should be sued.
Oh, I agree. Well, they're not. They're disarming your. They're violating your right to begin with.
Yeah.
They're not providing any security. They're only disarming some people, not all people. If they were disarming everybody that entered the building, and the only way to do that is with metal detectors and armed security, and everybody has to check their gun when they enter. I mean, even in the courts, a police officer has to check his gun unless he's there on official business.
Exactly.
So everybody is disarmed.
I remember a few years ago, I wrote a letter to the United States Post Office about 7 years ago about the way I was reading their statute. It's not even a law, it's just a regulations, okay? Bottom line, and it says, for any other lawful purposes.
That's what I was talking about, for any other lawful purpose.
Yeah.
And the way I interpret that would be self-defense.
Yeah.
That's a lawful purpose.
Oh, yeah. I'm a law-abiding person. I have a CCW on top of everything else. Why is not lawful there?
You go.
But the problem that he wrote me back, the bastard from wherever he's from. I still have the letter, by the way. I need to publish it on Facebook. And he said, "Don't you dare." Don't you dare. You really was like...
well, we don't have any legal decisions to base it on.
But they were trying to do that.
That would be a good reading of that exception. But that goes along, while hunting or fishing.
Yeah.
Or for any other lawful purpose. Those are the exceptions to the law.
Yeah.
And many times in many jurisdictions, they typically defer to state law.
Yeah.
So if state law allows it, they allow it.
Yeah, but the problem, they will want to push to set an example, and you like playing poker, and you play poker with your life and your rights. That's the problem. It's not like, okay, let's see who's right. You got the wrong jury, and guess what?
And under federal law, it's a pretty stiff penalty.
Exactly.
So, you have to be careful. But,
exactly. By the way, I want to be sure that listeners understand, we are not giving any legal advice to anybody. I'm no lawyer. We're just talking about a good conversation about rights and also about discussing laws. But we are not giving any type of advice, what to do, what not to do. Okay, I want to be sure this is clear out there.
That's absolutely correct. I am not a lawyer. And, people have to exercise discretion and pay attention and know their rights and know the laws. I mean, there are laws, the gun laws of Arizona, published by our old friend Alan Corwin.
Yes, great book.
That would be a good book for people to have.
Great book, great
Goes
book.
out annually. It's always updated. I consult with Alan on changes that were made to the law, so he understands them, and the intent behind them.
Yes. John,
So,
can you give the website also of Arizona Citizen Defense League? Because I would like the listeners, I already had Dave Kopp on the show a few times, and I like always to have, every time I have a chance to at least give the opportunity to the listeners to say, you don't need just to listen, be active. Start to join organizations like Arizona Citizen Defense League, join the newsletter, and start to use your phone or your email, because we got to work together to try to really stop what's coming, because the situation is drastic now. We are facing more and more referendum. I mean, Nevada's already been stuck the last year or so. I mean, we are under attack. So please give the information how to reach the website.
Well, not a problem. And there's also a lot of educational material. We even post court cases, things of that nature. So there's a lot of information on our website, which you can get at www.azcdl.org. O-R-G.
Perfect.
So for your listeners, it's www.azcdl.org.
Very good. And at this point, I pretty much ask you questions. If there's anything you want to talk, I didn't touch, something you would like to say, I give you the floor.
Well, not really, Luke. I mean, it's a pleasure to be on with you and, help have this discussion and, remind people that eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. You want to maintain your freedom, you have to be vigilant about it. You have to be engaged. You can't say, well, the other guy, he'll do that. Pick up the phone, write a letter. We make it easy for you. If people go to our website, they can sign up for our alerts. We don't spam you. We don't send out willy-nilly emails and things. We don't beg for money. We run raffles. We're entirely supported by membership dues and the raffles that we run. So there's some great raffles. We have a Thompson submachine gun on semi-automatic.
Yeah.
It's up for raffle now.
I saw that. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I should get it too.
As a matter of fact, today is our annual meeting that we have every year, so people can, get advised about those annual meetings. We alternate between Phoenix and Tucson. This year it's Tucson. Next year it'll be back in Phoenix. And to get on our mailing list and our alert list, and it's right there when they go to the website. Sign up for the alerts, and we'll tell you what's going on at the legislature and when we need people's help. To write their legislators, to call their legislators, to fax their legislators, because something important is at issue.
Yes. And I want to say something. A lot of people I know, they are members of the NRA. And guess what? After 10 years, I came back to be a member myself. I had problems 10 years ago, and I have problems again today. Even, of course, it's funny because I'm also NRA instructor in different type of specialty that I also need the certification for some of my classes that I teach. But at this point, my belief, my integrity is beyond my even my money. Because, I called the other day, for example, the DPS, okay? The Arizona Department of Public Safety. That normally, when you teach CCW classes, you must be NRA certified. That's it.
Yes.
Nothing else. I said, wait a second. Must be another way. Because the sad thing is, as I told them straightforward, I am really very disappointed with NRA politics stances. Yes, they have a decent, training system and curriculum, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, I'm having very hard time to be still a member with an organization that is pretty much now being part of infringing our rights. And I want to remind that the latest thing is exactly the situation with the bump fire stock. They're not even asking it to put it on the vote. They want just to say, okay, let's go straight to the ATF. And that's completely, for me, the line that I would never cross. I would not allow to any politician, especially the NRA. So I'm very disappointed. I was disappointed 10 years ago when I was in the middle of giving them my lifetime membership money. And I asked him, when I found out on their website, why do you have a website with two languages, Spanish and English? And this is coming from a guy like me that I was even born here. My first language was Italian, okay? And they brought me back after many back and forth. And I also met Mr. LaPierre in person at the book signing. And I asked him, why are you doing that? If you really want to go through that trail, you should put a website in Chinese, in Italian, in German. I mean, after all, there are a lot of immigrants coming from around the world. Why do you do that? The Bill of Rights is written in English, for God's sake. I don't care if you have an accent, we read it in English. And they told me, I still have the letter, I will publish it on Facebook. If you don't like our policy, you can just take a hike, pretty much. And I did. That was very sad. 10 years ago to the day, pretty much. And
everybody has their strengths. And AZCDL's strength is that we're state-based. We're in this state. All of us are in this state. We're not beholden to anybody. We don't get money from anybody. Like I said, all our funding is entirely through membership dues and raffles. That's it. No sugar daddies. But we're boots on the ground here, and you have to be proactive.
Yeah.
You can't sit back and wait for something to happen and react to it. You have to be in the trenches, being proactive, going forward, making steps, even if they're small incremental steps. Every small incremental step is a restoration of your right in some degree.
Yeah. No, it is true. It is true.
They've done incrementalism to take our rights away. We do reverse incremental to restore those.
Exactly.
And we've made tremendous progress, and people can see on the website our accomplishments, which are extensive. I mean, there's so many things I couldn't even begin to chip the surface of them.
Yeah.
I'd have to go look at it. That's how many there are.
Yes, it is true. It is true. I want to thank you for all really the work you're doing with other people out, in the Arizona City Defense League. But more important, even just sometimes interacting on Facebook, bringing information, educating. Because as I said, we don't know it all. We're always learning something, and we need to learn from each other. This is so important. If we don't know our rights, we have no rights. That's why we gotta. I think the most powerful weapon at the end is education, followed of course by firearm.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power. It's important to know your rights, to know the extent, just to know and be willing to exercise them.
Thank you, John.
It's like a muscle. If you don't exercise it, what happens? It withers and dies.
Exactly. Listen, I gotta go. I have to. By the way, you can stay 1 second with me. I want to say something to my listeners. This show is completely independent. Years ago, when I started 4 years ago, I learned pretty fast that for the information I try to bring you here, I can just go out and beg for sponsors and, from regular commercial entities. Sometimes you can get lucky, you can get somebody that agrees with you, but most of the time you get people that they want to tell you how to say it, when to say it, what to say it. We can say here whatever we want, of course, always with restrictions of FCC rules, but the point is we have complete freedom of speech. That's why I need your help, people out there. Simple as that. And honestly, I don't even do this show for money because I have other things I make my life, okay? I pay my life. But the point of this show, it takes a lot of my time. And sometimes I always say, is it really worth it at the end of the week? I have family I would like to spend time with. I have business I'm running. I'm trying to always take care of myself. But the reason is I do it because of your help out there. And anybody who wants to help this show, all you need is 99 cents. Or you go to Amazon.com, just put my name, Gianluca Zanna. You can find any of my over 100 songs ready to be downloaded, or go to Zanna.us, or get my coffee, Zanna Coffee. You can also find it on eBay, also ZannaCoffee.com. Doing that, not only you get great coffee, organic coffee, or music, or my erotic poems, books, or whatever you find, but also you support this show, and we can keep this format. So I appreciate your help out there. And by the way, speaking about coffee, I want to send you a bag of coffee, my friend. Do you drink coffee?
Yeah, I drink coffee religiously.
Okay.
I don't have my morning coffee. I'm useless.
All right. What I'll do, since you're a gun owner, I will send you a bag of my straight shot espresso. They're probably you're familiar on Facebook. Normally I put out the photo. There is a photo of my little coffee espresso cup, and also my...
I love my espresso. I used to love it a lot more with a little brandy or a little anisette in it, but I can't do that anymore.
Okay, but let me send you my organic coffee. Do me a favor. When we finish this conversation on PM, send me, please, your address, and I'll do that next week, okay?
I'll get that to you. Luca.
All right, Lisa, thank you very much for everything, and I'll talk to you next time. Meanwhile, you be in touch with me on Facebook, and I'll talk to you later, okay?
Okay, my friend. Ciao, bello.
Thank you, John. Bye-bye. All right, that was John, okay? As I said, this is for me a great opportunity because all these years, I had incredible guests. And every time I have a guest, even sometimes I may agree or don't agree. Of course, not the case with John Corey Wentling. I agree pretty much, I guess, almost on everything. But my point, even when I don't agree with somebody, there is so much to learn from each other. I really mean it. And there are some topics that really you need to be educating yourself. When it comes down to guns, it's not just say, oh, I love guns, so I love my rights. No, you gotta know the laws. It is an important thing. That's why in the show, as I said, even we are not here trying to give legal advices, but at least I want to show you what you should know, how to start to find the way to learn things, okay? And of course, it's not just about the laws, it's also about being safe and proficient with whatever firearm you have. Now, ready to go for our number 3. I want to remind you, this is my anniversary, 4th year on K-Talks, and I want to thank, of course, the first owner, Mr. Dave Ace, who gave me this opportunity, and I want to thank, of course, the new owner, Mr. Steve Rubin, that somehow kept me on the air for all these years, regardless my very controversial, or at least I don't want to call them controversial, but for me, they are just the truth. For people, they may be called controversial. But the point is what we are on this show. Now, I need more Zanna coffee. My voice is getting kind of dry. By the way, I wanted to tell you, if you go on eBay, you can find Zanna coffee there too. And there is a new way I really like to drink it. Honestly, it's not really new. It's just I go sometimes back and forth. It's with a little bit of cinnamon. You get your coffee, whatever coffee you have. If you have espresso, that's fine. Get a pinch of organic cinnamon on top. I'm not trying to give you medical advice because, FDA always loves to come and get you when you say something like that. But I heard that it's really good for your blood pressure and more important for your, sugar levels. Okay? So try it out and it tastes great. So that's all I can say. Go to zannacoffee.com. In this world where everything seems to be going sideways, when you need things set straight, Zanna Coffee Straight Shot Espresso. Start your day with a bang. The best organic and GMO-free coffee beans from around the world to amplify your senses and enhance love for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Zanna Coffee brings you happiness in every cup. Fair trade, certified, sustainable, organic coffee. That means we do not use slaves. Free Zanna songs with every coffee bag. Find Zanna Coffee at www.zannacoffee.com www.zannacoffee.com. Don't be cheap, you deserve the best. Get Zanna Coffee at www.zannacoffee.com. It is time. Get your Arizona Concealed Carry Permit now with Arizona Concealed Carry Permit by Zanna Enterprises, LLC. Become a more responsible and educated gun owner. Carry legally concealed in 35 states. Carry permitted in restaurants where alcohol is served. Learn where and how you can legally carry a firearm in Arizona. Learn where you can use deadly force. Where can you display your gun or not for self-defense? Learn how to deal with law enforcement while carrying a firearm. Learn how to be aware of your surroundings and how to avoid a confrontation. Buy your gun without waiting for a background check. Get your Arizona Concealed Carry Permit now. Go to www.AZCCW.us. Go to www